What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to the Draftkings picks and prediction show for UFC 286. We got Kamaru Usman going against Leon Edwards 3. Gordo, you're scaring me. What are you doing down there? What's up?
I was looking around. I don't see anybody around me. It's just me and you, man.
Oh, that's what you're doing. Yeah, man. No Weezy, no Monk, just the Brady and Gordo show tonight.
All right.
It was almost just the Gordo show. I barely made it myself. So kind of a weird week, but really good card. Did not want to skip the show this week. We have a lot to talk about. Gordo, what are your initial thoughts on the card? 15 fights. You liking it from a DraftKings perspective?
You know what? I actually really am. There's a lot of very good DraftKings scores scattered all over the place. And the card as a whole is one that, sure, the lines may be a bit juiced, but when you got DraftKings, you can play a lot of things. I have a lot of variations of lines I'm liking this week, and still really haven't narrowed down what lineup I'm going to play in this contest. And it's making me nervous. Got this lead to keep, right? So I got to pick a good one, but I'm sure we'll talk about some good fights here and try to cover as many as we can, just the two of us.
Let's do it. All right. So let's get right into it. Before we do so, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Me, Weezy, Monk, and Gordo go live at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday. Of course, we are missing two guys tonight, though, but it's all good. We'll still get through it here. All right. So we're going to start with the fight to target, as always, and I'll let you kick this one off. It's kind of weird for me. Like, there's so many fights on this card, but I couldn't find one where I love targeting the fight. So there wasn't really one that really stuck out, but I think there's a lot of good ones. Which one are you picking this week?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of like secondary options that are great fight to target as like if somebody else already took the obvious one. I don't think there is an obvious one, but I'm going to take the Omar Morales versus Chris Duncan fight. Not Christian Duncan, Chris Duncan. This is a fight I just think is very, very volatile, very violent. The fight I think was last time I looked was minus 220, under 2.5 rounds. Both these guys are guys with durability concerns. And I think that kind of plays into it. These guys are both guys who have been knocked out in the past, both guys who have offensive power. And I think that they are guys who are going to walk forward and swing until someone falls. And I do think a finish is likely here at 8.2. I think Omar Morales is the public vote. I think he's a guy that a lot of people are on, especially seeing how Chris Duncan has been knocked out, has been dropped in a couple of his last fights. So I think Omar Morales definitely has a chance to go out there, not only finish him on the feet, but also put some takedowns if he goes there. Other side of things, Chris Duncan does one thing well, and that is just throw with heat. So if he's able to go out there, connect with Omar Morales, he could drop him the same way Euros Medic did. Either way, I think that at this mid-range salary, it gives you some good options to look up. I think there is some violent tendencies on both sides.
Yep, I like it, and I think it does finish as well. For me, I'm just going to go with the main event. I think it's going to be my most heavily exposed fight on the card, so I'll talk about that. It is not favored to end into the distance. It's like plus 145 for the fight doesn't go to decision, and I see this playing out one of two ways. I mean, Usman, if he's good to go 100%, comes in here, I think he can wrestle, he can put on a pace, he can put up a big score and a win. But, I mean, there are some concerns I have about Usman. He just got knocked out. He's, been dealing with those knee injuries. I think he had like a wrist injury or something. So there's a lot of things that scare me on the Usman side. And, maybe Edwards catches him again. I'm more so on the Usman gets it done and gets it done by decision. So I will have more Kamaru Usman, but I think Leon Edwards at this price tag of 7,300 is definitely a dog I'll be looking at. But yeah, probably going to be my highest exposed fight on the slate for the main event here. Moving on to our fight to fade, and it's weird again because there's not a ton of fights I want to completely fade here. For me, I went with Muhammad Mokaev going against Jafel Filho fight. Just because Mokaev's 9,700, I think there's a lot better options that are cheaper. I think he wins. Obviously, he's the biggest favorite on the card, like minus 800. I think he scores very well also. It's just that is a very, very big price tag to pay on a slate where I don't really like a lot of dogs. So I don't know how I'm going to be able to go up there and afford someone in Muhammad Mokaev at this price tag. So I'm going to be fading this fight. I don't give Filho much of a chance. The only thing I'll say is Mokaev keeps going on interviews this week and talking about a potential shoulder injury, which I don't like that. So maybe if anything, I'll sprinkle some Filho just for that reason. But yeah, I think Mokaev should roll here, but the price tag is just scaring me away. So I won't have much of this fight at all. Gordo, what fight are you fading for this week?
Yeah, I don't mind that. Shoulders are definitely no joke. And if you're avoiding that surgery, if that thing pops out and causes not a DQ win, but a sort of like a verbal submission, like it can't continue, Filho is going to have a huge upside. We'll talk about him when we get to dart throws, but I agree, kind of hard to get to that one. What I'll do is, there's only two of us, I'm going to give a couple options. I'll give my primary option, which is that Wood Carolina fight. I don't think it's gonna be a high priority for me considering the people that are around Joanne Wood. I think that although she has good significant strike upside, she's not someone who's going to really be trustworthy at this point of his career, not also go out there and get a finish at a high clip. So I think her ceiling is kind of limited at 8.6. But where I get kind of dicey. And I just want to throw out there a little one that may be going, I don't want to say overlooked as a fight to fade, but maybe a more controversial fight to fade is that co-main event. Fiziev Gaethje is a fight I'm kind of fading more than I expected to, just because of these typical DraftKings scoring history for them. Sure, it is expected to end at the distance. Sure, both these guys are known with their knockout abilities, but if you are favoring Rafael Fiziev, the guy's not a good DraftKings scorer, except for if he's finishing in the first round, which when he did score over 100. He's never scored above 100 points. Even in his 5-round affair last time, he only put up 86. And against a guy in Gaethje who is going to bring the volume, bring the pace. Sure, Gaethje may be live down low. It's just, I do think this is a fight that goes past the first round, and it doesn't involve any grappling at all. For that reason, with the name value as well, being a higher owned fight, I do not mind if I'm going to get a bit under owned on it compared to the field.
Yep, don't hate that call. Only concern, like you said, is that first round knockout. But I think it's a decent fight to fade because it is going to be very high owned because everybody is probably going to want a piece of that fight. Moving on to our fighter to fade, I'm going to go with one Marvin Vettori, 9,100, just due to the fact that I think he wins this fight. But I think Dolidze, although, man, I really like Marvin to win this fight. I think Dolidze is getting a little bit disrespected here. I mean, Dolidze is a good fighter. He's very low volume, though, but, man, he has a ton of power. He has that great submission game. Marvin Vettori, for him to win this fight, I think he's going to outstrike Dolidze over the course of 3 rounds, just doing more. And I don't see him finishing Dolidze. Maybe he'll go for takedowns, but I don't really think that's the path here. I think the path here for Vettori, just keeping it on the feet and outstriking him. And I don't know if that scores well, especially at 9,100. So I'll be fading Marvin Vettori. And if anything, I think I'm going to be taking a hard look at Roman Dolidze at 7,100. And if Monk was on this show, for a fact he would be all over Roman Dolidze this week. So I do like Dolidze as far as the DraftKings play goes this week. Just do the salaries. I mean, 2K difference between these two. Gordo, which fighter are you fading for this week?
Yeah, none of our boy Monk. It's Dolidze. It's you can't say it out loud because he might come back and haunt you. But yeah, I don't want to be too repetitive as the only two of us, but I do have Marvin Vettori written down as my fade as well. At 9.1, it's just so hard to see him having a dominant performance compared to the people around him. I mean, you look up Gunnar Nelson's minus 400, minus 450 with a grappling upside, whereas Vettori, who's at that 9.1K, his path to victory seems to be clinch and volume here, which sure, I do have him winning this fight. I just don't think it's going to come with that high of a ceiling at 9.1K. So I am fading Vettori as well. Also fading the other 2 fights I mentioned, Joanne Wood, and then it is hard to get Mokaev, like you mentioned earlier.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, wish Monk was here for the Dolidze. He loves Roman Dolidze. He loves him. But yeah, moving on to our favorite dog, and this is another weird one, Gordo. I don't like many dogs on this card at all. I think a lot of these favorites are going to roll, so it makes DraftKings construction for me this week very, very difficult. I'll let you go first. Who's your favorite dog this week? Because there's really not many I like.
Well, I think the popular option as a dog is Leon Edwards, in terms of not only him being someone who has a very, very high floor, considering he went out there and he put up a decent score in a 5-round affair, but also the fact that people are picking him to win. People are going out there and saying, counting against those legs of Usman being shot. Sure, Leon Edwards may be one of the best underdog options because at 7.3K, he has one of the higher floors. But if we're looking at an underdog that could break the slate for you, because like you mentioned, there aren't that many that are too live. One of the ones that I like that's going to be a bit contrarian is right underneath Leon Edwards, Yanal, Ashmoz. And I'm not saying Ashmoz wins this fight a lot of the time. I'm just saying that when he does, he is going to be an underdog that scores very, very well. Sure, we know Patterson. We know he's lanky. We know he has those long limbs that go out there and can submit you from all angles. But I don't think Patterson is too sound defensively. He can be taken down. He can be hit. And against a guy in Ashmoz who's training at a proper gym, who will be working on those takedowns, will be working on that clinch, I think his path to victory at 7.2 could score decent because he is a guy who can go out there with the takedown upside and should come at a lower ownership. Again, it is a dangerous play as an underdog, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of both there.
Yep. I like some Ashmoz as a dog. I don't think he wins, but I think he has upside. I like Leon Edwards as well. I think for me, I guess I'll go Justin Gaethje. I mean, 7,400. I don't like him to win this matchup at all, but Justin Gaethje has a ton of power, and what he's going to do in this fight, he's not going to go out there and fight technical against Fiziev. He's going to go out there and try to take his head off for the full 15 minutes. And Fiziev has been knocked out in his only loss, and Gaethje hits like an absolute truck. They're going to strike. So, it wouldn't shock me if, Gaethje was able to catch him. So, yeah, again, not a ton of dogs I like this week, but, Gaethje, Edwards, even Dolidze. Those are some of the guys I'm going to be attacking this week. Ashmoz as well, but nothing I really love as in from an underdog perspective. Moving on to our prize picks section. I'll bring up the prize picks stats from last week. I know I hit mine. I had the Carl Williams over 2 takedowns. You remember what you had last week, Gordo?
I believe I hit mine as well. I will try to pull up that screenshot with you as well. I think we went 2-2 last week, so
yeah,
it wasn't
you had
another sweep.
Moss under takedowns.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we hit ours. Weezy had the Grant under 62.5 significant strikes. I think he had like 65, and that only lost because of Keith Peterson as well. So I think Weezy had the right read there, but Keith messed up on that one. And then Monk had the Mario Batista over 25.5 significant strikes, and I don't think he landed one. Did he? Maybe 1 or 2?
No, yeah, I don't think he
went to the takedowns like early.
Yeah, I think he's landed. No, I think he only got control time on DraftKings.
Yeah. So 2-2, not our best performance. We did like a couple weeks in a row with 4 for 4. So what's up, Billy? I see you in the chat. I think Billy is coming on the best bet show this week. Aren't you as well, Gordo?
Yes, I am. Saturday.
Let's go. Okay. So for me, for prize picks, there's actually one I really like, and it's going to be Joanne Wood over 63.5 significant strikes. I mean, the one thing about Joanne Wood that I always like is going to be that crazy volume. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she has like the highest volume on the slate. She's landing looks like second behind Casey O'Neill, 6.46, 47, 6.76 significant strikes per minute. Going against Luana Carolina, this fight's going to take place on the feet. Luana Carolina's landed 0 takedowns thus far in the UFC. I don't see why this is so low. So yeah, give me that Wood over significant strikes. I think she clears that number probably by the second round, to be honest. Gordo, what are you liking for prize picks this week?
Yeah, to add on to that Joanne Wood thing, she's averaged like over 100 in her last 4 decisions, but I will say they did up the line. It is out now at 70.5. I still think it's viable there, considering that she's putting out 123, 148, 101, 112, and 85 in her last 5 fights that have gone to decision. This fight is expected to go to decision. I do not mind that leg. We're going to pay homage to Monk here. I know we'd like this play here. Casey O'Neill over 85 fantasy score. That is the play I'm looking at this week on Prize Picks. She's just a very, very good DraftKings score. I think she's in Monk's like favorite range too, in terms of like those top 5 fighters who have gone out there and scored very well. But in her 4 fights so far, she averages 125.6 fantasy points on DraftKings, 121 her last time against Roxanne Modafferi. She is getting a step up, and she is coming off that ACL reconstruction, but she is someone who is going to fight at a high pace, has multiple paths to get these fantasy points, and I do have her winning this fight. So at 85, I just think it's a bit too low for someone who has been historically such a good DraftKings score.
I like it. All right, guys. Be sure to sign up on Prize Picks if you have not already. Use that promo code PubSports. I'll also be doing a Prize Picks video on Pub Sports Radio, and I'll be getting that out probably sometime tomorrow. All right, let's keep moving on, Gordo. Going to be a shorter show, but that's fine. We only have 2 guys. Let's go to our favorite GPP play. I'll kick us off here, and I'll kind of piggyback off your Casey O'Neill for the Prize Picks. She's my favorite GPP play here, 8,600. And like you said, I'm sure Monk would bring up a ton of stats. I mean, he loves Casey O'Neill, and how can you not? I mean, the volume she threw in that Roxanne Modafferi fight, well over 200 significant strikes. And this is a fight where I like her to win. I actually do like her to win. I'm not as high on Casey O'Neill as a lot of people are. I don't think she's, an amazing fighter, but, stylistically in this matchup, I think she has what it takes to win this fight, just because Jennifer Maia has some of the most frustrating fight IQ I've ever seen. She's a fighter that is a phenomenal grappler, BJJ black belt, goes for no takedowns. So she's going to be content to go out there and strike. She's low volume. I mean, Casey O'Neill should clearly be able to out-volume her on the feet, and I don't think it'll be close. And then also, if somebody's going for takedowns, it's probably O'Neill, just based off the fact that Maia doesn't go for takedowns for some reason. So, yeah, I think it's a very winnable matchup for Casey O'Neill, and I think if she does win this matchup, expect a ton of significant strikes, expect some takedowns, and expect a decision win that scores very, very well. The only concern for me is she is coming off of a little bit of a layoff, coming off of some injuries as well. But outside of that, I think she puts up a big score here at 8,600, and I will be having her in tournaments and cash as well. Gordo, who are you liking for this week for a GPP play?
I have to agree. That's my GPP as well. She's young. She's still improving. But let me give you another female fighter actually as my GPP play. Let's talk about Juliana Miller. 9.4. Again, it is harder to get up to those people up there. But I think when we're looking at the name value of the people above 9K, she's going to go a bit overlooked. And we're looking to find GPP. We want to find people who have high upside and coming at a bit lower ownership as well. And I do think she's going overlooked. She scores very well, 115 in her first fight. But the way I was trying to describe her when I was doing my show was, I was trying to put it nicely, but she's a psycho. She's a killer, like her name suggests. Like she just goes out there and she doesn't throw anything with really any technicality. It's all just brute force, and it's like she's in a street fight at all times. She'll do whatever it takes to go out there. I bet you if she could, she'd be pulling the other girl's hair, and I don't think that would score that well on DraftKings. But she is a killer. She's a psycho. She's going to go out there and she's gonna fight for your DraftKings points. And I do think at 9.4, although she is a fighter who is going to be early on the card, I think she does have some finishing potential. I do think she does have some good volume and pace to break someone like Hardy, who has been in a bigger layoff. Expect this at lower ownership as well. I don't mind as a GPP play.
I like it. I like it. Looks like we're all over the WMMA this week. We got Casey O'Neill, we got Joanne Wood, we got Killer Miller. So yeah, it should be good, and they should be. Hopefully, they're lower owned as well. All right, let's go to our favorite cash play. I'll let you kick this one off. Who are you liking for cash this week?
For me, it's Gunnar Nelson, 9.2, and I just feel bad for Bam Bam. I mean, they couldn't give this guy a guy to strike with. It just seems like a poor matchup. Gunnar Nelson's a guy who's going to proactively shoot for takedowns, going to look to get Barberena to the ground, which is where he struggles. Barberena's biggest hole in his game is his takedown defense, and we know Gunnar Nelson is going to exploit it. So at 9.2, I think Gunnar Nelson wins this fight a lot of the time. I don't think he has the highest ceiling, but I think he has a very, very high floor with control time with those takedowns, and I do think he's able to get Barberena out of there. Decent cash play at 9.2. And you don't have to worry about the shoulder of Mokaev at 9.7.
Yep, I like it. I like Nelson this week as well. For me, I'm just going to go with Kamaru Usman, 8,900. Yeah, this guy is just a DraftKings monster. If he wins this fight, it's probably by decision. You have 5 rounds to work with. Typically a very durable guy. Yes, he got knocked out in his last fight, but typically very durable. I like the volume, the pressure, the pace, the cardio that Usman brings, the takedowns, the control time. I mean, if he wins this fight, it's all going to add up and he's going to put up a big score. I do have some serious concerns about Usman at this point. In terms of like a money line, I'm staying away. But from a DraftKings perspective at 8,900, I don't hate him there, and I will be having him in cash. I've been stacking these last couple fights on DraftKings. It's been working out. I stacked that Marab and Yan fight that put up like 200 combined DraftKings points. I stacked that Shevchenko Grasso fight that worked out well as well. Not going to be stacking this week. I'm going to go with Kamaru Usman by himself, because there is another pump play I like that I have in my cash lineup we'll talk about in a second. So we'll move on to our favorite value play, Gordo. I'll kick this one off. I'll talk about Dolidze a little bit here. So Roman Dolidze, 7,100. I don't think he's that great of a fighter, but what he is he's dangerous and he just finds a way to win. Like, I was very confident in Jack Hermanson his last time out, and he just found a way to win a fight that he was on his way to losing. And that could happen here. I think Marvin Vettori has a lot more ways to win, but Dolidze hits very, very hard. He has that incredible submission game. If this fight hits the mat, he'll be live. It's really hard for me to pick Dolidze. But like I said, he just gets it done. So for 7,100, I won't mind some Dolidze here at this price tag. And I thought this line would be much closer just because a lot of people love Dolidze, especially, MMA Monk. That's on the show. But yeah, this line kind of surprises me a little bit. I mean, I think it's probably right. Vettori should be a big favorite, but I thought Dolidze might get a little bit more respect. So 7,100, I don't mind some shots on Dolidze there. Gordo, who are you liking as a value play?
Yeah, I don't mind that look there, but I'm going to cop out a bit on this one. I'm going to take Kamaru Usman as my value play. It's what I had written down just because of him at 8.9, considering how he is one of the top DraftKings scorers really ever. I mean, he's gone out there, he's put on performances with 168, 156. He averages 120. The guy is a very, very solid DraftKings player. And even in a loss last time, put up 98.5. If he won that fight, if it went another minute, he would have scored almost 130. I think he has that same prowess and skill to do that again. And I think he does go out there and win this fight. So 8.9, he does have good value considering how high his floor seems to be.
I like it. All right. Let's go to our dart throw. And to be honest, I think there's a lot of things that stick out for a dart throw. So I'll probably throw out a couple there. You want to kick us off? Who are you liking as a dart throw this week?
I'll do a couple too. Because there are so many of them, man. I think there's so many fighters in this lower range that if they win, they're probably optimal just because they're just like around one or bust. I think the most obvious one is Makwan Amirkhani. The guy is his nickname is probably Dart Throw. The guy has round one submission or bust. He's got no cardio, no really durability, no really will to stay in that fight. He goes out there explosive round one. If he can't get that submission win, he loses. And I think that his path to victory here, his ceiling is that first round, which will typically score him 115 or 97 like he did in his last two submission wins. He is a GBP play at 6.7 to the extreme.
Yep, agree. And I think that's an obvious one. I'm going to give probably a not so obvious one. I'm going to go with Veronica Hardy. I can't believe I'm saying it, but man, you take a look at her and watch some of her old fights, a couple of years ago, she's very bad. I mean, it's a terrible look. But, with all that said, she's taken a long time off. It's been about 3 years. Like the last time we saw Hardy in there, she was 24 years old. So if for some reason she went out there and made a bunch of improvements, comes back looking like a completely different fighter, she could very well beat Juliana Miller, who is not the best fighter in the world. She's still very green in MMA. So from what I've seen, like if Veronica Hardy shows up and looks like she did 3 years ago, I think she gets destroyed here. But if she shows up looking like she's made massive improvements, I think she could have a chance, and nobody's going to play her. So yeah, don't mind some shots on Hardy. Of course, I'm going to have a ton of Miller, but Hardy, I think she's going to be one of the lowest owned fighters on the slate. Any other dart throws you were looking at?
Yeah, both of them below 7K, not because they have the most fight winning capability, but they have the most like fight ending, right? So Filho, I don't think he wins this fight at a high clip, but I think his path to victory is a shoulder dislocation, which is something that could happen pretty often. 6.5, it will be optimal. Not something you want to rely on, but that is kind of a dart throw, right? You want to be really low on there. And then the Canadian, Malcolm Gordon, he does have a good submission game. I think he does have the path to victory there. I don't think it's very likely, but if he was to win this fight, I do think it's going to come by finish. The guy is a killer to be killed fighter at 6.9. That submission win would be one that would score pretty well, but again, dart throw.
Yep, and then other than that, like we talked about Ashmoz a little bit. I think Ashmoz is a pretty solid dart throw. He might have a little bit more ownership than those other fighters, but Ashmoz, Filho, because you kind of got to play some dart throws in this card. Because man, I don't know. It's a weird slate, lots of options, but really not really a ton of options. I mean, it's weird, but let's move on to, I think we're going to talk about how we did last week, and I will be pulling it up now. All right, so how we did last week, Gordo. It was a tie between me and Monk. So me and Monk had the same exact lineup, and we all four of us did very well last week. So me and Monk both had Petr Yan 40 points, Carl Williams 129, Alexander Romanov 1, Carlson Harris 112, Gravely 54, Murad Dvalishvili 167, scoring 506. So me and Monk tie for last place. Third and second place was Gordo. Gordo, you had Carl Williams 129, Krylov 120, Romanov 1, Harris 112, Turkali is at 58, and then Marab 167. You put up 591.03, and then first place Weezy with the incredible lineup. Carl Williams 129, Nikita Krylov 120, Victor Henry 106, Carlson Harris 112, Murad Dvalishvili 167, and Alexander Romanov ruined that lineup with just a 1-pointer there. But yeah, still scored 638 with Alexander Romanov in the lineup. So congrats, Weezy. You got it done. Current standings, we are 8 cards in. In fourth place, we got Monk with 3,160. Third place, we got Weezy with 3,460. Second place, we got me with 3,540. And then first place, we got you with 3,676. I'm 135 behind you. Weezy's 215 behind you. And then Monk is 515 behind you. Gordo, you still have the lead 9 or 8 cards in.
It is a very, very close contest still. And with a card like this, when we're lacking underdogs, I do think we're going to see a shift this week, whether it be a larger lead or one that's evaporated. It should be a very fun card. And I think we should be different compared to last week. Last week, we were all pretty similar. I think we should be a bit different this week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know I said, I think last show or the show before, that I'm done changing my lineup. I'm going to probably change my lineup. I'll kick us off here. I'm going to take Kamaru Usman up top. I'm going to take Casey O'Neill. I'm going to take Lerone Murphy, Ludovic Klein. Give me Christian Leroy Duncan, and then give me Ashmoz down at the bottom. Gordo, do you have your lineup for this week?
Yeah, that is a lot more similar than I expected. We actually didn't talk about Christian Leroy Duncan, but I do have him as well. Christian Leroy Duncan, 8.7. Ashmoz at 7.2. Dolidze at 7.1. Casey O'Neill, 8.5. Kamaru Usman, 8.9. And to round it off, let's go with Killer Miller at 9.4.
Nice. I actually like that. I want to find a way to get Killer Miller into my lineup. I didn't have the salary for it, but I'm gonna have to change some things for sure. So what we'll do now, if anybody in the chat has any questions, or if you're watching this on the replay, you can comment them below, and then we'll get back to them later. But we'll give our quick picks right now. And then I'll kick us off. So I'm taking a lot of favorites here. Kamaru Usman, the main event. Rafael Fiziev, Gunnar Nelson, Casey O'Neill, Marvin Vettori, Jack Shore, Chris Duncan, Sam Patterson, Muhammad Mokaev, Lerone Murphy, Christian Leroy Duncan, Jake Hadley, Joanne Wood, Ludovic Klein, and Juliana Miller. Gordo, what are your picks for this week?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a chalky one. I have all but one the same as you. We have Juliana Miller, Ludovic Klein, Joanne Wood, Jake Hadley, Christian Leroy Duncan, Lerone Murphy, Muhammad Mokaev, Sam Patterson, Omar Morales, which is the one where it got different, Jack Shore, Marvin Vettori, Casey O'Neill, Gunnar Nelson, Rafael Fiziev, and Kamaru Usman.
Sounds good. All right, we do have a question before we get out of here. Any belief in throwing a dart and Jay Herbert?
Well, that is a fight we actually have not talked about yet, but that is one that I'm not as confident in the Jay Herbert side. I don't think his salary is low enough to be considered a dart throw there, and I don't think he's a guy who's going to win a high-scoring affair a lot of the time. To me, Jai Herbert's path to victory is going to be a technical kickboxing bout for 15 minutes. I could be wrong. I know he does throw with power, but I think Klein has decent durability. In my eyes, Herbert's ceiling isn't as high as people around him, and for that reason, not my favorite dart throw, but he does have power. He could shut out Klein's lights, but just not something I see happening too often.
Yeah, I'll have some Herbert. I'm more so on the Klein side myself at 8,400. I like his takedown upside. Herbert, hittable, chinny. So I'm more so like Klein, but I'll sprinkle some Herbert this week. All right, Gordo, but we did it. Short show, short and sweet. Nothing wrong with that. Before we get out of here, let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on this week for some content.
Yep, you can find all my stuff on my YouTube channel, Plays and Fade Sports. Got my full card Draftkings and betting breakdown out there. Other than that, I will be doing the Daily Fan MMA podcast, as always, filming that, I think, tomorrow. And then I will be on someone really special's channel on Saturday, breaking down best bet before the fight, early card. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys there. Best of luck, and let's make some money, guys.
Let's do it. You can find me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. Friday, live stream, 4 o'clock Eastern time on DFS by the numbers YouTube channel. And then, like Gordo said, we're going to be going live 1 hour prior to the prelims, 12 Eastern for best bet. We got Gordo, we got Billy Briz, we got Narco Cop, we got myself, and might even add a fourth potentially. So I'll have to see. But yeah, it should be a very, very fun panel for a very fun card. So leave a like, subscribe to the channel here at Pub Sports Radio, and then also check out Prize Picks. Use that promo code Pub Sports, and also be sure to look out for that Prize Picks video I'll be posting tomorrow as well. Best of luck, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. See you.